The BAME Vision logo, 4 solid circles from left to right in colours of brown, tan, coffee and beige, with the words BAME written in white within them, with the word Vision written in tan underneath, and below the words Supporting Ethnically Diverse Communities with Their Eye Health and Sight Loss in brown.
Good evening and welcome to our webinar this evening. My name's Bhavini Makwana. I'm the chair and founder of BAME Vision. I'll be hosting today's webinar with my colleague Sylvia Chengo, who is the social media and content creator for BAME Vision. And just want to welcome you all today for our webinar on disability, youth and childhood, which is a topic for Disability History Month. Disability History Month runs from the 16th of November to the 16th of December annually. And it's a time to shine a light on, well, in particular, this year's theme of disability, childhood and youth. We wanted to shine a light on the youngsters of today who have been diagnosed with a vision impairment. But despite this, they're breaking through barriers. They're tackling challenges with bravery and inspiration. They're not letting their sight loss determine who they are, but instead they're breaking down barriers and achieving their goals and aspirations. And reading their panel bios, it's so impressive what they've achieved at such a young age. So I'd like to welcome both Ramneek Ahluwalia and Ethan Tailor to join us today, and we'll be asking them a series of questions. So I'd like to hand over to Sylvia, who will begin today's webinar.
Hi, so my name is Sylvia, as Bhavini has mentioned. I'll just begin by describing myself, a quick description. I am a Black woman and I have black and blonde faux locks and a green blazer and a green checked blazer, and I think it's maroon or burgundy high neck top. So I'm going to start with the first question and I'm going to let the panelists introduce themselves, beginning with Ethan. Could you please tell us more about yourself?
Hello, my name is Ethan Tailor, that we mentioned before. I'm 16, so I'm currently in year 11, on my way to do my GCSEs. Yay! So I'll quickly describe myself, just so people can't see me, they can understand. So I've got brown skin, I've got dark black hair, and I've got kind of brown eyes, and I'm currently wearing some navy dark bluish jumper. Anyways, so I've got a condition called Stargardt, which is a eye condition which affects the center of my vision, which basically what happens within the condition is that it will be a dot in the center of your eye that would progressively get bigger and bigger and bigger, not to take up the complete of your vision, but it would take up majority of it. And it's progressive conditions, which means that as you get older, the condition will eventually get like worse and worse and worse. So I was diagnosed at the age of around 7 years old, and I actually didn't know what it was at all, because I thought it was just I knew it was going to be something to do with my eyes, but I didn't know anything. So how I felt was a bit like I wasn't really bothered by it, but I had a small understanding, especially how I was at a young age as well.
Thank you, Ethan. So Ramneek, could you please tell us more about yourself?
Thank you, Sylvia. Hi, everyone. So my name is Ramneek Ahluwalia. So I've just graduated from university, so I'm 21 years old. I graduated studying electrical engineering. I am now studying or doing a graduate diploma at the Royal College of Art, specialising in design. And in terms of my medical history, so I've was registered blind / severely sight impaired from the age of 4.5. And a description about myself. So I am South Asian. I've got light brown skin. I'm currently wearing some glasses. I've got dark brown hair. And I am wearing a kind of light brown fleece as well. Nice to meet you all.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to ask the next question. And before I do, I did ask each of you to describe yourself, and then I go and forget myself. So before I ask the second question, I'm a South Asian Indian woman in my 40s. I've got brown hair with a little bit of balayage towards the bottom, which is coming out. I've got lipstick on, like a rosy pink color, and I am wearing a blue, I think a dark blue jumper, not so much navy blue, but a dark blue. So the second question I want to ask is, and I'll start off with you, Ramneek, first. What interests and hobbies do you have, or did you have, and which ones kind of like you pursue still? And did any of them impact once you were diagnosed with your condition?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting question because for me, I was very young when I was diagnosed. And so for me, there's not really a point where I've had that transition from not being visually impaired to being visually impaired. So for me, I've always seen myself as visually impaired Ramneek. It's not Ramneek and vision impairment. It's always been one. So I think for me, I've never really seen myself as any different to anybody else. In that, so my peers who have full vision. So I was playing basketball, football, and I was only one of the only girls doing those things. I used to play tennis, netball, and I even played chess at county level in under 11 chess championships when I was younger. So for me, yeah, my vision hasn't really affected, I guess, my lifestyle in that sense, especially when I was younger. And that was probably primarily because I have a twin sister. So family and friends, we always kind of were like one and we were like one unit, which I think kind of helped to an extent. And the other thing was I never really had anything VI specific. So for example, I went to a state school. So again, there was nothing really shouting out that I was visually impaired.
Yeah.
I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, it does, and I hope you don't mind me asking. So, does sight loss run in the family? Like, is your sister diagnosed?
No.
No.
So my sight loss is caused by a childhood brain injury. So when I from very very young on, I was being treated at Great Ormond Street Hospital and had treatment for that. And it's not it doesn't run in the family. And yeah, I think it really did. I think from what I hear from like my parents, it took them by quite surprise as well, because they didn't see the same thing in my twin sister. So it was very kind of very spontaneous and quite shocking, I think, for them at the time.
Yeah, I can imagine. And do you think that they had kind of like the knowledge or the information to help you, perhaps? And obviously being diagnosed at a very young age, I think it was more like your parents having to come to terms with it as well as supporting you. And then as you were growing up, and you mentioned the variety of different hobbies you have and your interests, how did that kind of your friend circle or your peers that you took part in the sports with, were they quite receptive to any kind of adjustments, or did you not need any adjustments?
Yeah, so I think the family and friend thing I think is a really good point. I think I think my mum and dad really did struggle. I know they kind of try and sugarcoat it, but I know it was a big shock to their system and to the family as a whole to see me quite poorly when I was really young. And I think also coming from South Asian culture, I'm sure there's a stigma, coming with this idea of being disabled, disability, what that looks like, and almost like taboo about talking about it, but also a taboo about showing it to the world. And that's taken me a very long time to, be on panels like these where I can openly discuss my journey in this space and say, yes, I am visually impaired. And I think that's taken me a good 4 or 5 years to do that. To not only get the courage to do it, to be empowered by it, and then to want to kind of advocate for myself and for others, and for this community. In terms of friends, that's a very, very tricky area, I think, because I was in and out of hospital from a very young age. I think I missed out a lot of friendship time I think there's a point to like that time to really get to know people my age specifically, because I was predominantly around doctors, clinicians, nurses. They were my friends at the time. And my teachers actually knew, how sick I was at the time. So at school, I would be around staff who would look after me, and at hospital, I'd be around more staff, just medical staff. So whilst my sister would be playing with her friends, I wouldn't really necessarily have friends, and I think that's why I always found myself playing sport, because that was my outlet. That was where I could feel a part of the team. I knew for a fact I was the only girl. The rest of the team were boys, but that didn't bother me because I felt like I was a part of something, and my energy was going into something that I enjoyed. And I didn't see myself as any different. That's not to say that I didn't have any nasty falls. I was falling over all the time, coming home with scratches and bumps and all sorts of things, but that never stopped me. And yeah, I think peers is a very tricky area, because some really understood, some didn't. I felt like I was quite mature for my age, seeing as though what I'd been through, and I guess I kind of had to be, and my peers weren't, not all of them at least. And I just didn't really know who to trust. And I think that, whilst at time was quite hard, I think it's set me up for the long run in terms of building those values and those relationships with people that I know, not only want to support me, but also want to lift me up and understand and can empathize with my situation and my journey.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your honesty there. I really appreciate that, and I'm sure our listeners will too. Ethan, similar question. What kind of, I was going to say sports, it doesn't have to be sport. What kind of hobbies and interests did you have, or do you still have? And once being diagnosed with your Stargardt's condition, did that impact in any way of you continuing or being able to enjoy, or did it allow you to take up new hobbies that you found interesting that you necessarily wouldn't have done so?
So yeah, throughout the years I've been in and out of many different hobbies, but the ones that I've kept and kind of really enjoyed and stuff would definitely be my number one would definitely be cooking. That's something that I tend to do almost every day. Not at the moment, since I have my mocks and I've got to revise, so I don't have enough time. But just I think what I really enjoy about cooking is the fact that vision isn't one of the things that I wouldn't say is particularly needed, but it's almost it uses like every other sense as well as, like, obviously taste is, I'd say, the main the main kind of sense that you use, and then you have smell, and then you have like touch as well, and everything like that. I just think it's something that I've enjoyed, and just a hobby that I can pursue without like my condition stopping me from doing pretty much anything. Like, yes, I might need help with maybe like the scales or something, but that can be adapted. For example, like talking scales or large, like when the numbers pop up, maybe it's like a bigger scale, or maybe I just have someone to help me. It's just it there's many adaptations in the kitchen or within cooking that can be made, but that's definitely something that I really enjoy. I've also just recently again started the gym. I went quite I went before, but I wasn't particularly consistent. But nowadays I'm definitely getting back into it, and I think it's something that's just not even just for the condition, just everything. It's good for your physical and mental health and everything like that, which is obviously really, really important. But in the gym, it doesn't really there's not many I don't think there's a single adaptation that needs to be done within it, because a lot of it is just feeling and just like kind of knowing. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just mainly, you don't particularly need sight when it comes into doing stuff like that. I've also recently, just a couple of weeks ago, started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which is a sport that I think I want to carry on because I do really, really enjoy it. And again, similar to all my other hobbies that I take, it doesn't really involve much sight. Like, obviously, maybe when you're getting started, you might need a bit of sight, but just it's a lot of feeling and like kind of getting yourself around. How do I explain it? Like, it's just kind of, it's because it's a contact sport, which is, it's a martial art, and you're just getting yourself around people and like sparring and stuff. Like, for example, when I first went to go sign up, my mum was telling the person, like the coach or whatever, that just to be aware that I am visually impaired, and maybe like if I'm being called up to do something, called by my name or something like that. He was saying how it's perfectly fine. They'll put those in, and like even one of the coaches actually had a match where he did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu completely blindfolded, because he was saying how you don't even need vision. It's just completely about everything else. And it's about, like, if you know your techniques, you know your ways. It's something where you don't need your vision, which is something I really, really enjoy. I also, from when it comes from like a young age, similar to Ramneek, I've a lot of the hobbies that I do at the moment, I didn't do back when I was 7. But from like a young age, I was cycling and swimming quite a lot, and I don't swim anymore. I'd like to do that again. I don't cycle at this current time because of the weather, and know me, like it was getting a bit icy or whatever. I will end up falling or whatever. But that is something where I don't think that my vision has impaired. My vision has impacted me in any sort of way, because again, possibly cycling, the actual kind of practice or whatever it is of doing cycling, your vision's completely fine. Maybe like getting around, I might need to have maybe like my dad in front of me or whoever. When it comes to swimming, I'm quite all right, because I just kind of swim in one direction, and then when like the barrier or the wall at the swimming pool or whatever gets close to me, I'll realize it's there. But at this current time, my main 3 would definitely be cooking, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and the gym, and those are definitely 3 hobbies that I completely enjoy, and I don't think or actually no, they don't impact me in any single way. Or my vision doesn't impact me in any single way, and it doesn't stop me at all. So yeah.
No, I don't know how or where you find the time to do all of them. This sounds incredible. And similar question to Ramneek, in terms of, attending some of those classes, or, things that you've done as hobbies. Have you found like your peers to be quite supportive, or have they found it a little bit awkward? Like how has your experience been?
Yeah, so I think when I was, let's say, maybe in secondary school was maybe like a bit more challenging, because people, I guess, because everyone was kind of growing up, and I think being a teenager can be quite tricky as it is anyways, with stress from education and kind of emotionally as well. And I think majority of the time it was quite positive. I felt like sometimes it was just a matter of kind of saying, oh, for example, this might help if that's okay, rather than doing this way. Or just, just speaking to a member of staff who would say, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Most of the time it would be like, yeah, like what you just do, whatever you do to feel safe. And that was it. And I think, as it was said before, like most things I think sometimes vision is, I don't know, not, I feel like it is really, really important, but like it said, it doesn't make things impossible. Like you can still do things. Like for example, chess was very visually demanding, but having that kind of, orientation and that spatial awareness of where things are, you don't have to rely so much on your vision, but more about like touch and feel. And I think there are workarounds, and I think in some ways, I think I find like I'm really resourceful in that sense. Like I'm like, oh, rather than looking for something, using my vision, I would sometimes feel it, and that would be so much quicker than it would be actually seeing it. So I feel like it kind of comes back to my engineering mind of always problem solving and things. So yeah, and I think in terms of like hobbies now, I think most of it is like kind of digital art and things like that. I recently got myself a 3D printer, which I've been loving, so I've been printing loads of different things, tapping into my engineering side again. And yeah, reading is something, it's actually funny, because I think coming out of education, I think it's given me kind of a breath of fresh air into kind of tapping into things that I want to learn. So for example, coding, and reading books that are on various topics outside of academia. So again, I think there are ways like using a Kindle and things like that aren't VI specific, but again make things so much more accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I think I agree with your sentiment in terms of like sometimes using your other senses than your sight is so much quicker. I'll just give a really quick example. Like sometimes during the night, if I suddenly need to use the bathroom or just, I forgot to bring my glass of water, I would just do it without switching any lights on because I know where my bathroom is. I know where my stairs are. I know how to unlock the kitchen door and where my sink is and where to find the glass and come back upstairs and yeah, sighted family members completely freak out because switch the light on. I'm like, why? It doesn't make the slightest bit of difference to me at all. So, different examples of how sometimes touch and just knowing your way around certain situation without using your vision actually can be something we accommodate and adapt to quite easily. Ethan, similar question to you in terms of, growing up with your sight loss and not just hobbies, but education as well. Like, how have your peers, your friends, people around, I don't know, the classes or hobbies that you attend, how have they kind of accommodated or, what has your experience been like?
Throughout the kind of years of me going through school and everything, I think basically all my friends have been supportive and kind of accommodating with my condition, because I think from one of the things I do is when I kind of first meet people is, and I know I'm gonna like see them quite a few times over and over again, is that, or maybe just once, I just introduce them to my condition, like even just a short one. And I think having that understanding for people is just really important, just because even just being like a quick one, just being like, oh yeah, I have this condition, it affects the center of my vision. So if there's like something on the board or something here, could you just help me out with this? And majority of the time, everyone's gonna be like, yeah, sure, man, that's completely fine. I'm happy to help. And I think even within like clubs and stuff, like I've just joined this jiu-jitsu, and people have been like, I've been like, oh yeah, I can't really see where this person is, so just, or like maybe just point out when they're done sparring so I can go and have a go with them, and they just point out, and like the coach has been really supportive as well. And then within like for example class, sometimes if I don't have my TA with me or something, the person sitting next to me would help me out. Like they'd be like, oh yeah, this is on the board, I'll write this down for you. And I think everyone's been quite, even not even just through like hobbies and everything, just education and in like in real life situations as well, they've been really kind of accommodating and helpful. And I haven't particularly had any bad experiences where people have been like, no, I don't want to do that for you, or no, this, I can't do this because I don't want to. Everyone's been like, obviously everyone has their own time and they're trying to do their own work, but people will like, if you're nice to them and you will tell them everything, people will save time for you and be like, okay, here's a little help, because people are like that. They're gonna be nice. No one's particularly gonna be like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, so that's quite interesting. So, your open honesty and the education part helps them be more supportive, and they know how to kind of support you in a situation where, like you said, if your TA is not there, then you've got that kind of understanding from them, and that's really, really nice to hear. Before I hand over to Sylvia for the next question, I'm really interested in what's the best cooking dish, or what's your favorite dish that you love to cook?
You got me stuck here, because me, I love, do you know what? The thing I say a lot is, and it sounds a bit like, oh yeah, this, but I wouldn't say it's just like a one type of recipe, but I'd say it's like like things you can do with it. So basically, I do love when you make a great burger. I think I absolutely love a great burger because there's so much you can do with it. For example, in like past times, I've made myself, like, because I don't eat beef, I've made myself like a lamb or a turkey burger or a pork burger, or I've made myself like a different style, like an American like fried chicken style, or I've done like grilled chicken, or I did some like Japanese style burger quite a few months ago. And I think there's so much to I quite like experimenting quite a lot of the time. Like literally my mom's like, sometimes I want to get home and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to cook this, and mom's like, no, you need to improvise, you need to do this, you need to do that. And like, and I'm so like eager to do new things when it comes to cooking. So that's why I think I really love just any type of burger, because it's just, there's so much you can do with it. Like I literally I could list for an hour so many. I won't obviously, but I could list for so long so many different things to within a burger or just stuff like that. So my short answer is a burger.
Yeah, no, that sounds so fascinating. And I can already imagine or see you in the summer holidays, once you've done your marks, once you've done your GCSEs, a recipe book by Ethan Tailor on burgers. Thank you so much,
It's an
both
idea.
of
It's an idea.
yeah. Thank you so much, both of you, for that question and answer. I'm going to hand over to Sylvia for the next question that she has.
Yes, thank you, Bhavini. And yeah, I'll definitely be looking out for that recipe book because I love trying out new things as well. But so we've talked about the fun stuff, you know, your hobbies and everything. So we're going to talk about more fun stuff, your education. So I want to know or we want to know, inquiring minds would like to know how you manage your education, or how you managed, you know, in the past and up until now, and how you're managing now. Are there things that you found easier, or you're surprised to find them easy? Are there challenges you're facing? And if you have had any challenges, which you probably have, how are you overcoming them, and how have you overcome them before as well? So we're going to start with Ramneek for this one.
Thank you. So yeah, I don't know where to begin, to be honest. Education has not gone my way at all, unfortunately. Okay, so one of the bigger overarching themes, I think, with my journey in education is that so I've had support plans in place, which has highlighted kind of, these are my needs, and you know, to support my vision. But unfortunately, at GCSE level, at A level, and at undergraduate level, my needs have not been met at all, not a single time. And it's been a very, very challenging time. So when I was I kind of look back when I was at primary school, because I'm thinking, well, when I think about the most challenging times, I think about post GCSE. And actually, when I think back at primary school, I'm thinking, actually, the support I got then wasn't quite what I should have got, really. It was kind of touching the iceberg. Like, it wasn't really like formed properly. There were certain things in place, but they weren't it could have been so much better. So for example, I remember one of the staff had kind of ordered a magnifier, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Hopefully this will help me read books a bit more and a bit easier. And this magnifier was a very blurry A4 sheet, which was ordered off of Amazon, and it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. And I never picked it up after it was ordered, because there was no use for it. Another thing I remember was for my SATs, I was given A3 sheets of paper. And as somebody who has no peripheral vision, A3 is not the way to go for exams, because you're already very overwhelmed, and having A3 paper with text and diagrams, just isn't what was needed. And that was kind of, I think, the school's way of kind of ticking that checkbox off, that, oh, you know, for every kind of visually impaired student, we have it as A3. Now, of course, I didn't really know anything better, and I don't think my parents did either. So we kind of assumed, oh, Ramneek's getting the support, so that's good. But when it really, really hit was secondary school, because at that time, you know, so there was about 60 kids in my primary school per year. And then I went to my secondary school, which had 360 kids by year. So now we're not only talking about mobility challenges, we're talking about academic challenges too. So, you know, I was really, really worried about my safety coming to and from classes, because there were so many stairs. There was also, of course, in class, so, you know, seating, you know, sitting at the front, it almost seemed like it was a bad thing, because most of the time, you know, my peers who, let's say, were a bit more mischievous and wanted to cause problems sat at the front, and I wasn't one of them. I wanted to learn, but I couldn't see anything, so I had to sit at the front. Now, that's not to say that every teacher had made their lectures accessible either. And that's where I started to learn that actually I have never really been a student, and I kind of knew from then that my educational journey was going to be one where I was constantly advocating for myself, and unfortunately that's what it's been. G.C.S.E, I was actually made to sit one of incorrect exam even when I'd pointed it out, and then it was just a ramble of trying to contact the exam board by teachers to be able to fix that. It didn't happen, and I didn't get the grades I deserved, but I just about scraped by with what I needed to study further maths and physics at A level, because the sixth form trusted kind of my situation and said, we'll take you on. And I was like, great, new start, let's start again, sixth form. So I studied further maths and physics. Once again, throughout the academic year, I was going up to staff saying, this is not accessible, I should have this font, this size, etc., etc. And they said, we will, and you will 100% have it in your final exams. And then what happens? COVID hits, no exams at all. So this kind of progression of all these kind of predicted grades were then summated to something that did not meet my needs at all, and it wasn't showing my true potential at all, but rather the kind of the lack of support that the institution was providing, unfortunately. So for A levels, so I wanted to study engineering, and I had applied for Cambridge, Imperial, King's, UCL, and Warwick. I had got all interviews from all of them, and the top two universities that I wanted to go to, which I had chosen, were Imperial was my first, and my second choice was can't even remember, I think it was Warwick. And because of all the predicted grades and stuff, unfortunately I had to go through clearing, so I wasn't able to get either of them, because the grades that were predicted just were off of grades that again did not actually show my true potential, but rather the fact that things were so inaccessible. So anyways, looked forward a bit more and came to my undergraduate level, and I was like, okay, let's start again, properly again. We've got higher education, we've got DSA, which for those of you who don't know, DSA is Disabled Students Allowance, which is kind of a sum of money that the government puts towards disabled students. So it could be whether you're visually impaired or have other needs. So I was like, great, so I can finally get the equipment and things I need to support me through higher education. And we fell into the first problem because there are so many kind of unwritten lines between what DSA can provide you. And it seemed like a constant battle to once again justify my needs, and to kind of make my visible impairment, my invisible impairment visible. And so that was the first thing. And then I came through an institutional problem where the department and my lecturers weren't understanding the support I needed, and were saying again, we can't do X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z. And it was really in my second year of university, so last year, that I really mentally hit the lowest I'd ever hit in my educational journey, and just needed some help. So I turned to the Royal National Institute for Blind People, their legal team, so RNIB, and the Thomas Pocklington Trust, who were able to then lift some of the weight off my shoulders, and things they got better to an extent. They weren't perfect, and even in my final grades, in my final exams, it was not at all easy. Things still weren't accessible. But at least now that the institution was held accountable for their kind of the lack of support they were providing me, and I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get a first class degree in my electrical engineering degree, this graduating in July. So yeah, that's in a nutshell what my educational journey has been like. Not an easy one, but definitely proud I've got through it from the other side. And now I'm studying at the Royal College of Art, doing studying on a graduate diploma course doing design, in the hope that I will get back onto my master's, which is hopefully in design engineering at Imperial. So yeah, I'm sorry it was a long story, but highlights. Yeah, education just has not been my friend. Full stop.
Thank you, Ramneek. I just honestly, I'm so sorry to hear that, it's been so challenging because I was under the impression that, things might be a bit better nowadays. I was under the impression that, there should be more awareness out there. People should be, institutions really should know better at this point. But yeah, it's very unfortunate that it has panned out this way. Do you feel like your experience has prepared you for, your next stage? You just said you're doing art now. Did you say art? Sorry. Something to do with art. Do you feel like it prepared you for your next, phase of your education?
Yeah, so I guess I think I've learned a lot of life skills. I think it's really kind of woken me up with in terms of the challenges people with, I don't like the word disability because I think it I don't know, I feel like it's a very traditional word and I think sometimes it's used in the wrong context. So I tend to use kind of difference or an impairment. So I think that like it's definitely given me let's say practice in terms of how to advocate for myself, but also it's given me a wake-up call in terms of what I might face in the future in the workplace, and at the same time I think it has been really, really challenging and it's been really, really hard at times to pick myself up, but I think I have built some really good relationships in that kind of really difficult period of time, and people who I know that I can turn to if this comes back again, which hopefully it won't. But to have these ongoing conversations and to say, and again to kind of use my story as a basis to show everyone else who's not in this space that these things are still going on and they're not okay. Like we need to do something about it. So I think it has definitely prepared me for future education and kind of what to look out for. And I know now what I need for my visual impairment. And yeah, I think it's definitely given me some life skills as well at the same time.
Okay, thank you, Ramneek, and congratulations. I think
Thank you.
you're passing so well, just as testament. Where are my words? It's a testament to how intelligent you really are, and even when things aren't, you're not given exactly the right tools, you're still finding a way. So keep going and definitely keep sharing as well. Keep talking about your experiences as well, because it would teach a lot of people and show a lot of people, what should be done.
Thank you, Sylvia.
So now the same question to Ethan about your education, the fun stuff, like I said. How was it? How did you manage before up until this point? How are you managing now? Just sort of any challenges you're facing or you have faced and how you've overcome them or are overcoming them.
Yeah, first of all, I'd say sorry for like the lack of like help that you've had for education. I've kind of had the opposite effect. I've had a lot of support when it comes to my condition within education. So even throughout primary school, when they didn't, I don't think they've ever had someone who's been visually impaired, because I was first diagnosed when I was around and when I was in year 3. So that was just getting into key stage 2, I think that is. And I've had, even just through primary school, I've had a lot of support where they made like they tried their best, because they've never had someone like this before. They've tried their best to make the font applicable for me and everything like that. And then when I joined secondary school, I think we managed to. I think my parents' goal was to get a school that was just something that really would help in terms of vision, like not a school that's especially for people with visual impairment, but just a school like I don't know what the word is, like just a standard secondary school, but they would help a lot within the visual impairment kind of realm. So even with currently within secondary school, I've got tons of support. I've got people helping me. Like in my school, we have something called the Visual Access Center, which is where they enlarge like copies of paper into a font and like paper size that I can see. But that's how do I explain it? Currently within school, I tend to use a laptop for all of my work, apart from maths, because oh God help me if I was trying to do it for maths. I've learned to touch type, which is actually, I'll get into that real quickly. Touch typing is definitely a skill that is really important and you should learn from like a young age. I'll get more into that in a second. But yeah, throughout within secondary school, I use a laptop for everything, which has honestly been the biggest lifesaver ever, because I type all my work when it comes to like writing stuff, and it's just so much easier and it's so much time saving. And um on my laptop I have another like software which is called Type VNC, or just VNC. I've no clue what it stands for, but what it does is it would connect my laptop to the teacher's screen so I can see what's happening on their board. So I can sit pretty much anywhere in the class and then see what's on their smart board. And then in each lesson I'd have a teaching assistant with me, and they'd sit like either to the back of class or near me. It just depends on what lesson we're in. And I'd put my hand up and they'd come up, and then I'd be like, could you write this down, or could you tell me what's on this board, or anything like that. And they're trained teaching assistants, so they accommodate me, which I hope they do. But yeah, quickly to get onto touch typing, if there's like advice I'd have to give you on something that, if you're newly diagnosed with a visual impairment, touch typing is definitely, if you're going to use a laptop throughout your life, or I hope you do, it's just a really important skill for just pretty much anyone, because just when you type fast, it makes your work so much more simpler, and just not being able to look at the keyboard and just kind of just tap away and just know what you're doing, it's definitely a skill I really 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 recommend to learn. So that was just like a kind of quick note for that. But yeah, within school, because I'm still in secondary school, so I haven't moved on to any other education yet, so I haven't experienced that, obviously. But within my secondary school, I do have a lot of support with teachers, because they're quite understanding as well, because they've been told by like the teaching assistants, or like the I think the curriculum support, they've been told how they can be accommodated by me. And the teachers are always free, they always ask me, is this okay, is this all right? And they're always quite very I'm using this word a lot, but they are very like accommodating with me. I think that's all I've got to say within education wise, in terms of things that I use at school. I don't think I have anything else. Things have like come and go in terms of things that they've worked. Like I had this thing, I can't remember the name, but it was like a camera that I connected to my laptop that would, like, it looked like a lamp, and yeah, I used to like connect it. I used to show, I don't know, it was like a camera, and then I used to unfold it and it used to show me what's on the screen, but it just didn't work. Like different things work for different people when it comes to that. So I think when it comes to working within secondary school, if you're gonna have a laptop, you find your own ways on how to learn and how to adapt to different things.
Thank you for sharing that, Ethan. It's really good to hear that you've had a great experience. You're really well supported. It is unfortunate that it's kind of a lottery of sorts, you know, what support you sort of get within education. But you know, hopefully things do get better. And yeah, I would really continue encouraging you both to keep sharing. You know, you're saying what worked for you and what great support really looks and feels like, and that's really good. That could really help a lot of people. And the same for Ramneek, you know, just saying all the gaps in, you know, where they could have helped you or how they could have supported you better, and so on and so forth. And yeah, and thank you for highlighting as well, Ethan, that, you know, different things work for different people. Like the camera thing you said, it really depends on a person, doesn't it? So yeah, so I'd like to pass on to Bhavini for the next question, please.
Thanks, Sylvia. And before I ask you the next question, Ramneek, you know, congratulations. You know, despite all of the challenges you've had to face, deal with, you know, you still persevered and kept going. And you know, that is a a massive congratulations to your determination and spirit. And yeah, just sorry you had to face all of that, but like you said, it's kind of preparation and life skills. You know, you shouldn't have to face that, but it just makes you more determined, and hopefully, yeah, things do get better, and you don't have to fight for just a basic thing like education. So my next question to both of you, but I'll come to Ramneek first, is your bios, your profiles that you sent were so inspiring, so impressive. Each of you have highlighted quite ambitious recognitions and achievements. Do you just want to share, Ramneek, some of them, or no, all of them, and how it's enabled you to get to where you are now, and what kind of things have helped you get there?
Oh, and thank you for the congratulations. So yeah, so I guess the first big one, my educational journey achievement is, yeah, achieving a first class in electrical engineering. I think yeah, I think this is just maybe a piece of advice that I think about is, you know, you don't let anyone tell you that you can't do anything. You know, there were so many tutors and teachers who used to tell me, you know, how are you going to do this? How are you going to do that if you're visually impaired? And I'm like, well, 5, 6 down the line, I've done, you know, 5, 6 years down the line, I've done it. There is always a will and there's always a way. And yeah, and I think my kind of struggles and my challenges that I faced have always kind of, you know, just driven me to just, you know, keep going and doing what I love. So one of the other things that I've loved doing is design and solving problems, and that probably comes down to the challenge that I face myself. So last year when I was you know, facing this really hard time with the university, I came across this competition called the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow competition, and it was a national competition. I hadn't heard of it before until I got a newsletter email randomly, and I thought it was right up my alley because it was like, you know, do you want to design something? And I was like, yeah, okay. You know, do you have a good idea? And I was like, not yet, but maybe. And would you like to solve a real life problem? And I was like, yes. And at the time it was quite ironic because I was having mobility training. So I had never ever used a white cane before in, you know, since I was born. And I remember taking a white cane to university, and all my peers were looking at me like, oh my God, what is that? Or, you know, whoa, are you blind, etc., etc. So rather than me feeling kind of empowered to use something that's supposed to help me for all my visual impairment, I was actually felt very vulnerable and intimidated. And I was like, well, this isn't quite right. So there was my problem. And how I solved it, well, that was up to me. So I used this competition. It had nothing to do with disability accessibility, but you know, company wise, Samsung is huge in the tech space. And then as an aspiring design engineer, I was like, well, this is a great platform to not only share my story, but share, you know, get the voices of this community heard and seen, and to, you know, see how these tech companies kind of take these you know, how I can use this platform and show them, you know, a solution that could really help people like myself. And so that's what I did. So I designed a white cane, or a modern version of a white cane, that would use technology like LiDAR sensors, ultrasonic sensors, and other things, and really kind of completely change the looks of it and the way it felt, and the fact that each person could customize it. And I went through 6 months of mentoring. So it was a national competition. I think there was about 500 applications first of all. Then it was shortened down to 20. Then it went down to 5. And in summer of 2022, I was crowned the winner. So I think that year I went from a very low to a very high. And I was absolutely honored. I was shocked, to be honest. I didn't really expect it. And what I did not realize was the amount of people that came and said, wow, like, how is this still going on? And this isn't aren't necessarily people who know of people who are visually impaired, but they're kind of allies or would like to be allies in this space. And it really did start the conversation. And to have, you know, professionals in that space who I want to be working alongside with one day as a design engineer, it was just a great platform. And I think from there, doors and doors and doors have just opened. So I was on a panel with Jordan Stevens, Hernam Kaur, and Reggie Yates to launch the competition of 2023. This year, I was featured on a campaign with Samsung and CNN as part of their Generation Change campaign, which was absolutely incredible. So I had 2 days of full-on filming with about a crew of 20 people filming me, which was crazy but amazing. And yeah, just to get that publicity on such a big platform, and predominantly again because of my vision, is just, yeah, sometimes really does shock me. And I think I'm very proud of myself, but I'm also really proud of my family and friends as well, especially my family, who, again, like I said, like this would have been a very, very taboo topic come 5 years ago. Now I'm sure if you probably search my name anywhere, you'll see visual impairment and disability and accessibility. So yeah, I think the main thing I've learned is that my difference or the challenges I faced have empowered me and enabled more opportunities for me, rather than letting it kind of bring me back and draw me back. And yeah, because I think it could have gone either way. And I've always kind of used my experience to shape the work I do, and the unique perspectives I bring. I mean, even now I'm really out of my comfort zone in this art and design space, you know, being an engineer, but I'm absolutely loving it because I'm able to say, you know, actually, like, coming from the accessibility space, there's so many other perspectives that are you know, that are not shared but are that need to be shared. So yeah, Samsung has been a big win in this. And then some other things I've been doing, so I've been doing a lot of work with the Thomas Pocklington Trust as well, kind of sharing my story, talking about things like DSA, and like Ethan touched on, kind of like giving tips and technology insights. I've been doing a lot of things outside of accessibility and disability. So I've been doing so I was on the youth board for a charity called the STEMettes to encourage young girls and non-binary people into STEM. So STEM being science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And yeah, so there's a lot of things I have been kind of tinkering into and sharing my story with.
Wow, just absolutely wow. And another congratulations.
Thank you.
That's super, what a proud moment. You know, that definitely is a massive achievement. So yeah, huge congratulations, and super well done for that. Ethan, similar questions. Again, just reading your bio and profile, you know, you've also achieved quite ambitious achievements and recognition, and, you know, traveling international for some of them. Do you want to share some of the things that you've been up to, and what's supported and enabled you to get there?
Yeah, before I say that, just another one. Massive congratulations on that competition. That is genuinely amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But yeah, stuff that I've achieved. This in my head, they're very different kind of things, but I'll kind of go in just what's the first thing that comes to my mind. So just recently, just before summer and other times as well, I started a conference within San Diego, which was like, it was just a conference about clinical trials and pharmaceutical companies and whatever, that kind of stuff. And I kind of I started the conference talking about how accessibility for accessibility for visually impaired people, and how they can be helped throughout the conference. So it was a good kind of starter off, where it's like, because there were a few people there who were visually impaired, not everyone was, but just a few people. But then just having that knowledge and kind of knowing what could be changed and adapted through that was really helpful for them. Anyways, I've also just earlier on this year in February, I had a school trip. I had a ski trip, which was definitely something I really, really enjoyed. I like to again, but quite expensive. But when I got back from the ski trip, I had some people being like, "Oh, how have you done that then?" And I genuinely don't know how. Anytime someone says, "Oh yeah, how have you done that then?" I don't know how to answer. I just be like, "I don't know, I just did it." You know, it's just like, I've never been skiing before that time. Like, I had some practice in some little like indoor ski facility or whatever, but I've never skied on a mountain. And it went well. I'm still here. I didn't fall off a mountain, so that's good. But that's definitely an achievement, and that's definitely a big achievement that I've done. And I've just I've also been on quite a few like newspapers before about. I actually don't know why I was in them, but I've been in them for like numerous amounts of reasons. And then I've also been in a few documentaries from like, I think my first one, I was in the BBC News when I was around the age of 9 years old, just talking about my story as like someone who's young, having a visual impairment. And then I've also had a few other ones talking about like just kind of how like it's almost like it was like an inspiring documentary on how like your vision shouldn't stop you. I think there was like a quote in there that's now apparently my quote, which is like, I think it was the limit is what you choose, or something like. I think it's the limit is what you choose, which is just basically what I said, which kind of means don't put a limit on yourself, or no one can put a limit on yourself. You can just kind of achieve anything, you know. And so I think those documentaries have definitely been something that I've probably one of my biggest achievements, especially how it's about how I think it's like inspired other people as well. And I like seeing people, you know, like people from like if they feel sad or anything, they become like happy or like inspired or anything, or seeing people motivated. It's just like even that's an achievement in itself. Like the thought of maybe people being happy that I've kind of done that, or people being inspired by it, is definitely something that I kind of felt. But that's like the kind of the big sense of achievement within that.
Yeah, it's giving hope.
Yeah, exactly.
We all go through highs and lows. We could be, great achievers. We could have done so well, but we all go through times and moments where, things do get us down. And, looking back at those things or looking at what somebody else has done is a good reminder just to give us that hope and sense of belief that actually just trying to pick ourselves up and giving that space, actually it's okay to have those moments. There's nothing wrong with that. We all go through vision impairment or not, everybody goes through them, but you're absolutely right, we need something, whether it's a documentary, a newspaper article, a podcast, or a blog, or one of these webinars, just reminding ourselves that actually we can get up and do it again. We just need to believe and hope. So you're absolutely right, and it's great that you've been able to do that as a young age, because for so many young people, that's going to be a sense of great hope, not just for children but for parents too. So you should be really proud of that. I'm going to hand over to Sylvia for question 5, and then there's one final one from me after that.
Thank you, Bhavini, and huge, massive congratulations to both of you. Honestly, you are such, again, for want of using a better word, we will keep using inspiration, because it really is, it is what you are. When you see someone, like you just mentioned, Ethan and Bhavini, when you see someone achieving something that maybe you thought was out of reach, it gives you that energy, that sort of, vigor to carry on or to try something new, maybe not that same thing, but something new. So along that sort of topic, the next question is, have you had any advice from someone that has kind of inspired you to keep going, inspired you to kind of keep exceeding, to keep achieving high goals, keep aiming high? Have you had advice or support or any guidance from someone basically that made you, keep going? And we'll start with Ramneek, please.
I just want to say congratulations to Ethan as well, some amazing achievements. I think there was actually, it's not a person per se, but there was a song that was, so I was a part of a choir when I was in primary school, and there was a part of a song that in the chorus, and it was saying something along the lines of, let your actions speak louder than words, so stand up and be heard, be the change. And for some reason I cannot seem to get that quote out of my head all these years, and I think when I heard that, I think I really realized how you know, we are very, very small in this world, but the impact we can have, you know, and on not only on other people but on ourselves and our communities, I think is so powerful. And I think maybe it was just in school when we were talking from like just teachers giving like, you know, like quotes and inspiration. I think I've just kind of picked out certain values and different things that I think have really resonated with me as a person, and have really encouraged me to keep going. Because I guess like I said, I've never let my vision take anything away from me. And I think it yeah, so I think they're definitely like just hearing quotes and values that resonate with me. In terms of people, I think the people I think have definitely obviously been like my immediate family, like my parents, who've always said to me, you know, you can achieve anything, and they've always, you know, advocated on my behalf when I haven't been able to or just haven't had the strength to. And the fact that they say, you know, you can keep going, you know, it's okay to feel down, but you know, you have that strength in you, you've got this far. And then hearing that from other people, so you know, occupational therapists at my hospitals, and just saying like, you know, what you're achieving, because sometimes I think I don't really realize how much I've achieved until you kind of step outside of your bubble. And I know that sounds very, very strange, but when you're in it, you just kind of, you're in it just to get it done, kind of thing. And I think when I look back and I'm like, wow, not only have I just overcome everything that I've overcome, but I've also achieved everything else on the long way. And a lot of those achievements are meeting people and connecting with people, and having mentors again who are, they might be in the visually, you know, in the accessibility and disability community, but most of the time for me they haven't been, and they have even given advice and tips from completely different angles. From like I still have a mentor who's become a very, very good friend. She's an engineer at Ford, and I met her through STEMettes, and at that time I was just looking for a mentor, being, you know, female as an engineer, and I was looking for somebody in industry to kind of give me that kind of advice and guidance, and again just that a little bit of drive and motivation to be like, okay, you know, we are still very, very small, but we do exist, and we've become such good friends. You know, we've been to, you know, we've had dinner out and met up, and you know, having such a diverse range of people in your circle, and having access to them, I think has been, it's not only been a privilege but an honor, but it's just been so reassuring. And yeah, it's just been such a lovely experience, and I think it works two ways. So definitely I think it's just like that kind of building that kind of, I'd say like your family outside of your family, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Ramneek. And yeah, I think it is true. You kind of do pick up bits and bobs as you go along. And I think Be the Change is really powerful because it does resonate in my head as well. Like it just rings in my head as well. From the first time I saw it. I can't tell you when it was I did see it, but yeah, it has stuck with me too. So the same question to Ethan. Have you had any advice from others that has encouraged you to keep going, inspired you to keep going, to keep, you know, aiming high, and so on and so forth?
It's quite an interesting question because I'd say, was it maybe a month ago or so? I had quite a bit, my kind of mental health kind of dropped. Like I've been known for being quite positive, but then it was, my mental health kind of dropped, and I had like, I just didn't feel kind of motivated or anything like that. I just felt very upset, and it was honestly really odd for me because I've never felt like that. I've never felt that kind of sad before, and it was, I almost didn't know what to do, but I did think I handled it quite well. And throughout, I handled it by just talking to family, like close family and friends. And throughout that, I think I had one piece of advice that I find it really odd because a numerous like different amounts of people have said it to me, but like they obviously didn't all have a conversation saying, oh yeah, we should say this to him. Like it was just completely different. And the kind of advice that I got was to take things step by step, or not to look too far in the future, but definitely the main quote would be to take things step by step. Which I think the issue that I had was that I was thinking too far into the future, and I didn't think I didn't think I'd done enough, or I didn't think I was panicking too much and wondering like kind of how I'd my life would be, or I didn't feel like I'd done enough. So, and I think that one quote, like I think my mom said it to me, one of my great friends, she said it to me as well, and like some other like this careers lady said to me as well. Just many people have just a bunch of people have all said it to me, and I think it's definitely something that has stuck with me, even though it's just been a month, or I can't remember how long it was, but even though it's just been about a month, it really has stuck with me, and I do think about it like every so often, because it's something that I think people need to take into account, because it's just like I was too busy thinking of like, oh yeah, what job am I gonna get? How is this job gonna, like, money wise, or how's this job gonna affect me, or like how's this gonna happen, this and everything into like 40 years into the future, when I really didn't focus on the now. And I realized like I've still got so much more to do to get to that one point. And you never know, I might want to switch my careers, I might want to change what I want to do, and just taking things, kind of holding yourself, not holding yourself back, but holding what I thought I could achieve kind of back, and just being like, well, I've got to kind of think what I've got to do next. So far, I've got to focus at the moment, instead of focusing even on my GCSEs, I've got to focus on my mocks, because that's the next big thing that I've got coming up. And even like just the smallest detail, and think of like even though what you've got the next day. Like, don't get me wrong, it's always good to think about what you have in the future, because it's always good to have a plan, but it's never good to think too far into the future, because then it might just happen, the same thing or a similar thing might just happen to you, what happened to me when I was just like, I didn't feel like I was good enough, because I didn't think I'd achieved much at this age, because I was thinking too far into the future. But then I was also told that I've achieved a lot, and I've been quite an inspiring person to quite a few people, and I realized that that was true. And it's definitely something that kind of stuck with me, and I think it will stick with me forever. So kind of the short answer again would be, the quote would be like, just to take things step by step, and to kind of just focus on what's next, instead of focusing what's like in 10 years time or anything. But yeah.
That is some great advice. I definitely agree with you, or with, your piece of advice that you've held on to. Being present is really important, because like you said, sometimes you could think too far ahead, or think maybe where you have been too far back, and just everything can get a bit overwhelming. So to stay motivated, it's definitely important to be present and take things as you go, step by step. So I'm going to hand over to Bhavini for the next question.
Thanks, Sylvia. And this is my last question for the evening. I could spend the whole evening just listening to you both. It's just been incredible hearing your journeys. My last question is, if you had to share any advice or tip or some guidance to any other young vision impaired people out there who may watch this webinar, who are on the webinar today, or are tuning in through our Facebook page, or even parents, what would be that tip, that advice, that guidance you would share with a young vision impaired person? And we'll go to Ramneek first.
Oh, I think that's a tough question. I think there's so much to say. And like you said, I think I could go on this for like hours. I think the first thing is just to have faith in yourself, have belief in yourself, or have, belief in your daughter or son. I think it's such a daunting place, I think, the world in general, where it is right now. And I think, having a disability or being visually impaired, I think it can be really, really, you can feel very vulnerable at times, and I still feel very vulnerable. But I think at the same time, I try to look at the positives and really kind of, like I said, use my unique experience as an experience that enables me to really, drive what I do and what I love. And I can't say that anyone else has that experience, right? That's unique to me. That's what I bring to the table. And I was told so many times, like, why do you want to, say to future employers that you're visually impaired? And it's like, well, why not? Like I said, my vision comes with me. It doesn't stop me. It enables me. So if I'm going to bring my unique perspectives to, whichever company who wants to have me one day, then they're going to have to love me and my vision, full stop. And I think there is always a light at you know, a light at the end of the tunnel. It has, you know, you've seen my very, very bumpy journey, and I'm sure it's still going to be very bumpy and tangled. But I think there, you know, there's so many people I've met on the way. And you know, just keep going, keep building those connections. You know, BAME Vision is one amazing charity. There are so many others as well who are allies. You've got TP Thomas Pocklington Trust, RNIB, Guide Dogs, so many others. And there's so many communities of young people who are in the same boat, who are wanting to help each other, who are wanting to hear their you know, from each other's experiences. This is just the beginning, it's not the end. And I think like there's this a research study going on with guide dogs and the University of Bath, and I've met so many other young people who are either have heard from me from RNIB or something else, and we've kind of connected in this massive circle, and there's about now 20 of us in this community of young people who are all different ages, through all different stages, but the one thing we all have in common is we're all visually impaired. And I think that's so powerful. And empowering. I think that's the word. And you know, you feel empowered. So you just know, I think you're not alone. And to find the community that you feel supported in, and the people that you know you can go to support. And yeah, and I'm going to say that quote one more time. I think that quote maybe sums up me, which is, let your actions speak louder than words, so stand up and be heard, be the change. You know, let your difference be able to create that change, and let it empower you rather than stop you.
Amazing. Thank you. And that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much. Ethan, similar question to you. If you had to share any tip, advice for a young vision impaired person now, or you know, down the line when they watch the recording, or perhaps to a parent, what would you like to share?
I think to a question that would be similar to this or the same is, I always say, and it's kind of almost the ethos or the thing that I follow, would be is to keep yourself, or try keep yourself in a positive mindset, because I think always, even if a situation has the more negatives to it, just bringing yourself to think of the positive sides, or to try flip it in a positive way, is something that I've really kind of focused on, and I think is the reason why it's kept me motivated and kept me going. As you've always got to know that there's always going to be hope. Like that's a message to like both young people and the parents, is that there's always going to be hope, and it's never going to be the end. And similar to what Ramneek was saying, is like there's always going to be light at the end of the tunnel. Like you can always I don't know how to explain it, but there's always ways to also keep you, like, I know it's quite a cliche thing to say, to keep yourself in a positive mindset, but there's ways that you can do that as well. Like, for example, to keep yourself active, you know, put yourself in nice hobbies, do things that you enjoy, keep yourself like around a nice group of friends or a nice group of people, or just, I think socializing is also really important, because it's just even, and it can be anyone that you socialize with, but just talking to people, I find really, I know people might not like socializing, and it's different for everyone, but doing things that you enjoy, or doing things that kind of make you positive, will just end up making you live like a full life, and you know, leading to make you live a full life. And there's always hope, and stuff like that. And it is once again quite a cliche thing to say, to keep yourself in a positive mindset, and it might be quite difficult for people to try find that, especially if you're like having mental health issues. But it's always good to like open up to people as well. You know, everyone here is like here to help you. Like, even if you were just being genuinely serious, be like, okay, I need help here. You know, this isn't how I'm feeling. People are gonna at least try and support you, even though it may not help in like a major way. People will try and like help you and support you, and always trying to give yourself that kind of positive energy, and always trying to keep yourself in that positive mind really, really, really kind of helps if you're feeling down or feeling sad. And just trying to, it honestly brings you up. Just even just putting a smile on your face or anything like that really, really does help. So I say again, it's just keeping yourself in a positive mindset and trying to keep yourself positive. It's just really, really helpful.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. And completely agree. I mean, both of you have just been phenomenal this evening, and I've truly learned so much. I've felt so inspired by each of you, and you've both got such bright futures ahead of you, and congratulations again on everything you have achieved and are achieving. You certainly have the great mindset, but like you both have alluded to, there are times when you have those moments of low periods, but it's knowing how to be able to get out of that and just remind yourself about how far you have come and what support and adaptations you need to get to where you are. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, your enthusiasm, your passion, your openness. You've both shared such things that are quite personal, but in order to kind of empower and inspire others, you've opened up in such a way that it truly has been a fantastic webinar. I'm going to just check with Minnow to see if there's anything in the chat, and open up to our attendees today to see if there's anything they want to share, perhaps ask a question. Minnow, while we wait, is there anything in the chat at the moment?
There's nothing at the moment.
Nothing in the chat. So if anyone does want to ask a question or comment on anything, feel free to unmute.
Julie has her hands up. Julie, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Hi, Julie.
Hello there. I will start with a description of myself. I'm short and Scottish. I have fair hair, and being Scottish, don't see the sun up there much. I'm down in London, but I'm extremely pale. I just want to say thank you so much. This has been really, really interesting. I work for RNIB. I'm a programme manager for the eye care support pathway. And my question to you is this. From September last year to about February of this year, I engaged with people with lived experience because wanted to hear what their experiences were of accessing services, which is what brought us to the eye care support pathway that we have now. And I suppose if you could land one message with the providers of services, whatever those services might be, the impact on your lives, what would that message be? Whoever wants to go first.
You want to go first?
Yeah, no, so Julie, do you mean in terms of the eye care pathway, so your providers like ECLOs, rehabs, etc., or do you mean literally any pathway?
If there's something that springs to mind that you think would be useful for people to hear, whether that is an eye care pathway or any other kind of pathway, if there's something that you, I suppose, would want to change or would want to impart your wisdom to have people hear you about something that would make a difference, that's more what I mean. So for example, when I was engaging with people previously, what they were saying was that they felt as if, one woman told me that she felt as if she could have put her eyes in a bowl because actually she didn't feel that her, as a whole person she was engaged with, because all that people were in, all the medical profession that she met with were just interested in her eyes and not her as a whole person. And so her message was, see me as a whole person. I'm more than just my eyes, I guess. So it's something along those lines. If there is anything that I've put you on the spot and I'm aware of that, right? But if you do have anything that you think you would want to, right?
Yeah. I think something that people also kind of got to realize, or maybe things that I'd like to spread awareness about, is that people with visual impairments, or this could go for any disability, is that pretty much they can do anything they kind of want to as well, and they can do pretty much the same thing that everyone else does. Because I think what a lot of people realize is that they ask you like, oh, how have you done that? You can't see this. How have you managed to catch this? How have you managed to do that? And I think seeing people, like when it comes to like visually impaired people, just knowing that that they can do everything else, or pretty much everything else that everyone else does, is just something that people have got to kind of know. And it's kind of, because sometimes the question does get a bit repetitive, and it's like, oh yeah, how have you managed to do that? And my answer is always, I don't know, I just did it, because it's not even a question to answer. I'm not going to explain to them how I did it. It's just something that I've adapted to over time. So I think just knowing that, I think the question, thing is where it's just like knowing that people with visual impairments or any sort of disability can do anything else that anyone else can.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ramneek, did you want to add anything there? There's no pressure to do so.
One thing that came to mind, I think, is the idea of this, like, what visual impairment looks like. Now, I think this comes back to my idea of disability, because I personally, I don't like the disability symbol of the symbol of idea of somebody who's in a wheelchair, because I think that's such a traditional view, and it's not accurate. And I think with vision, it's so it's such a spectrum, and it's most of the time it's invisible. And I've been reading this book recently, which is by somebody called Graham Pullum, and it's called Design Meets Disability. And it really did wake me up for a second, because if you think about people wearing glasses, we don't say that they have an impairment per se, do we? But then when people think you have glasses on, suddenly you're not, it's almost like you've been cured. But I have glasses, but I'm still visually impaired. It doesn't correct my full vision. So I think there's such a very blurry line between what constitutes as a disability, and even more so, how do you know somebody's visually impaired? And I think for those who are not a part of this community, I think the people really do need to really empathize with those who are visually impaired, and actually understand that, you might not look visually impaired, but that doesn't mean you're not visually impaired. So what can I do to support you? And when you were talking about services and things, I think this has a lot to say about services, about, I always think of it as mainstream things, and then things that are and VI specific. And when we think about mainstream things, we think about a lot of things. We talk about my love of tech isn't always accessible, but I would much prefer like an iPad or a Microsoft Surface tablet over like a visually impaired looking magnifier that's made and aimed for people with visual impairments. But the people who created these products don't really think about those who are visually impaired per se, right? So I think if I had anything about if I wanted to give a tip or some sort of advice to these services, whether it's clothing brands or websites, especially kind of like now we're going to Christmas shopping territory, and people are already like, there was people messaging me saying like, things are not labeled properly and things like that. And I saw a recent post by RNIB on LinkedIn saying, it's about time like these services and institutions and companies wake up and think about their customers, because we are people too. In so many words. And I think they really need to understand like how it is to be in our shoes, to be able to really prevent this problem from continuing, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you both very much. Thank you.
Thanks, Julie, for your question. Is there anyone else?
Nothing in the chat.
No. Well, whilst if there is anyone who wants to comment or ask a questions to either Ramneek or Ethan, please do. And whilst you're completing that, just sharing details of our upcoming webinar, which is the last and final one for 2023. It is under the Vision Through Creativity umbrella term that we're launching these webinars. But it is for International Day of Disabled Persons, which takes place on 3rd of December annually. But the webinar will take place on Wednesday, 6th December. And we have 3 incredible panelists, all in the creative arts. We've got a podcast host. Sylvia, please do remind me again, we've got a music engineer, and our final one. What does
Sorry, I was trying to get the poll off my screen.
Oh, sorry.
So yeah, okay, we have what did you mention? Okay, a music producer and DJ. We have a podcaster, And we also have a third person who wears many hats, one of which is a chef, a digital creator, and the CEO of his own international business. They all have plenty of hats, but yeah, that's just
highlighting today. Yeah, so yeah, thanks Sylvia for that. My mind just went blank. So that is taking place on Wednesday, 6th of December, and that is our final webinar for 2023. I hope you have been able to complete the poll, and I just want to double check before we end this webinar today that there isn't anyone who's left without being able to share anything that they'd like to today. No? Well, I must say this has truly been one of the best webinars ever. It's just been truly, truly amazing. And I say that because, you know, just going back to the start of my sight loss journey, that, you know, if I'd met both of you then, I think that I'll be in a very different place. You know, you truly, I you know, congratulate you, and I wish you both all of the best in your education. Ethan, you got your mocks, and I just wish you all the best, you know, for your GCSEs, and Ramneek as well, and not just in your educations, but just as you as individuals. So thank you so much for giving up your time, especially, you know, in this busy time of your studies, and sharing so much today with us. It's truly been informative. So thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to echo what Bhavini has said. Thank you so much to you two. When I started my journey as well, I was not as I would say confident as both of you are, and yeah, it's really good to see how much is possible and how much really can do even from a young age. So thank you for today. Thank you for sharing your stories, and yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you to everyone for joining us. We will be sharing this recording link in due course. We're still working through the National Eye Health Week one. So yeah, we will get around to editing as many as we can before Christmas, and we'll be sharing the links. If anyone does want to watch it back, you know, immediately, then it is live streamed to our Facebook page, so you can catch it on there. So if you're not following us on social media, we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So thank you all so much for joining us this evening, and once again, thank you Ramneek and Ethan. Good evening.